Hey folks, Assalamu alaikum. I'm Mohammed Shahriar, almost again with all, and in the whole series, so far we have covered a lots of things, especially the EC2 stuff and IM stuff. Okay, now let's learn something about networking. To be honest, because that's going to be handy now. Okay, so let's get started with this one. So here in this one, you can see that there are two companies here, and one company has a public IP and another company has this public IP. Great, that's good. You can see there is another two buildings here, meaning that they belong to a big company, and obviously they are part of it. And something you can assume it just like AWS has an office basically in US, and AWS has an office basically in India. Okay, you can assume like that, and they have their own IP address to contact each other. So that's basically the private IP address. Okay, and this private IP address is not visible to others, or anyone from outside cannot contact to this private IP address. Okay, so assume that this public IP, basically this is a company, this is another company. So this company want to contact these companies. How will they do that, as they have the private IP and this is a public IP? Like anyone from public IP in general can't actually contact the organization who has a private IP, right? So this is not possible. So how we solve this issue is using an internet gateway. An internet gateway basically has a public IP. So assume that this organization want to contact this organization or the office. So what they will do is basically this public IP will contact through this internet gateway and then get into this one. So basically the packages and others are sent, and this is how things work. Okay, so you have to be very cautious about these concepts. So just to be clear, public IP addresses are something that anyone can access. Okay, and obviously you can set restrictions like who can access, but you can in general. But private IPs are basically the IP addresses which are used or created to contact within the organization itself. For example, if we just move into this slide, so so far we have been running this EC2 instance, and you can see if you just go here, you can see there is a public IP address, right? So what we did was, so when we press this public IP address basically, or this open address, it started loading. And remember, we did set the SSH and HTTP traffic allowed for this public IP only. Okay, so we're not currently not using SSH, and if you just look into it, is HTTPS, so it won't work. It should be HTTP, and we expect this to work now. Continue to the site. Yes, it's working. The script is running. So this is the public IP which we used here. Now if I just copy this one and paste this over here and then run, let's see if it works or not. It won't work. Okay, so you can also see this is the host name was set as the private IP, and you can see I'm running this one and it won't work because this private IP for this EC2 instance was created so that other EC2 instances will also have a private IP. They can contact each other. So when we will mention like this EC2 instance to contact another EC2 instance, they'll basically contact via these IP addresses. They will know, they have a table and they know which basically EC2 instance has which private IP address, and they contact via those IP addresses. But if you talk about the public IP, this public IP is something which you in general can provide to others, or set some restrictions like who can get access to it. Maybe from a friend of yours from another country, it can be done. There's no problem with that. So that's a good concept. Now let's move to here. Okay, great. So we have just covered like the public IP and the difference between public and private IP. But there's an issue. What's the issue? The issue is that whenever we just stop our EC2 instance, the public IP to change. For example, if you just look into here, you can see this was our EC2 instance, and if I just select this one and press from this option instead stop instance, keep it in mind that the public IP is 18.206 and this didn't work. Okay, this is the private one, but the public one did work. Okay, if I just press this one, you can see I have pressed stopped. So let's wait for this, and once it's stopped, I will restart that, and you will see the public IP has changed. Okay, so yeah, the EC2 instance has stopped. So you can see if you just remove the filter, you should be able to see, yes, it has stopped, and this was the public IP. Now if I just press this one and start this EC2 instance, so let's see if it works properly, and yeah, it should. Let's just press this reload one, it's running, and status getting checked, and public IP. So if you just look into here, the public IP has already been changed, which was 18.206, and now it is 3.236, and so on, right? Now assume that you have an EC2 instance and somehow it got stopped, and you have a public IP address basically assigned for it, and you have provided this to your friend, and your friend is trying to connect, it's not working, and that's an issue, right? And after the EC2 instance was stopped, it again restarted, and you can see, or it was started, and the public IP has been changed, and you don't even know. So that is an issue. Okay, so this is an issue, and this is something we can solve using a new concept of ours, which is basically the concept called elastic IP. Okay, elastic IP. So elastic IP is basically something, yeah, like you your AWS account has been provided like 5 elastic IP basically. So what is this? This is basically fixed public IP address which you can attach to your EC2 instance, so that what will happen is if you just stop your EC2 instance or restart it, or then start it, the public IP is still there, so it's good for your friend, right? So how can you do that? Let's just go to here. You can see elastic IPs. There is no elastic IP, so you can just create one. You can see network border group. Okay, so let's just verify that our EC2 instance was running in which US East 1D, right? Okay, is it within elastic US East 1? Yeah, okay, it should work properly. So Amazon's pool of okay, so Amazon has a lots of public IP basically, so you can choose one, and we can just allocate one. Okay, great. We need to associate this elastic IP address with what? So you can see its instance. So we have an EC2 instance already running, right? And this is the ID I08AB and other. So if you just choose this one, and you can see the same thing. So we are attaching this elastic IP address with this instance. Okay, no private address to be attached, no problem with that, you can do that. And you can see associate instance. So now if we go here and go for the EC2 instance and remove this filter, reload this one, now you can see the public EPB for DNS is this EC2, and so although that was obviously the same, but there is an interesting thing that we can look into now, which is elastic IP. That's the thing. You can see the elastic IP address is 52.91 and the public IP is exactly the same. Just a moment back it was like maybe 3 point something or something like that, right? Now you can see once I have attached the elastic IP address, it has been changed. So if I just like obviously stop this EC2 instance, and then obviously if I want to restart that or start again, the question is, will the public address still remain same? As we've learned, it should be, right? So it's getting stopped. So yeah, we can wait for that to be stopped, then we will learn about it, right? Okay, so it has stopped properly. Now if you just look into, if you just select this one and go for start instance, so the public IP is 52.91, and let's see once it starts, does it remain 52.91 or so? It's still in the pending state. We will just look into this one, and you can see that this instance is here, it's running, and the public IP address is still 52.91. So yeah, that's the benefit of elastic IP address. Now let's move for the another concept, which is called placement groups. Okay, so what are these placement groups? Okay, so far we have been working with one EC2 instance, right? Great. What if you want to, like, obviously launch thousands of EC2 instances, and you want to, obviously you want those EC2 instances to be located in specific region or something. You just want a control over EC2 instance. You want them to be connected and so on, right? Then you need to actually learn about these placement groups. Okay, so here if you just look into here, we can see to have a control over EC2 instance, we can have it in, and there are three placement groups you can look for, or three structure. One is a cluster, another is spread, another one is partition. Okay, so cluster is something like you can look into just a thing like a cluster. There in the there can have multiple EC2 instances, no problem, but just keep it in mind. So we've talked about regions, right? Like a specific region, there are lots of regions, right? In a region there are obviously availability zones. Okay, and there are multiple availability zone obviously within a region, like almost 6 or so, right? Okay, so when you choose the cluster option from placement group, what will happen is, like when we are creating EC2 instance and we have chosen this cluster option, so assume there is a one EC2 instance in US East 1, B or A, whatever it is, or something, a specific region. Then if you want to create another EC2 instance in the same cluster, what will happen? The EC2 instance will be created within the same availability zone. That means all of them will be in the same availability zone, and that is helpful. Why? That is helpful because sometimes assume that your customers are basically in the US, right? And you want all of the your EC2 instances to be running, and all the data should be there, and you want to create all of those in a specific availability zone. That is good. So you can choose the cluster option. That is a 10 Gbps bandwidth within the EC2 instances, okay, within themselves. But there is another option called spread. The problem with cluster option is, assume that the whole availability zone is disrupted. Then what happens? There's an issue, right? So like in the spread, what happens is the EC2 instances can be in multiple availability zones. Now here you can also see like US East 1A and US East 1B. Here assume that it was US East 1A only. Okay, all of those were in the US East 1A, but here they are in different availability zones. So if one is destroyed, another is still there. That's good. Now talking about another option, which is called partition. So partition gives you much more flexibility. That is, within one availability zone there can be multiple partitions, almost up to 7. Okay, so and each partition can have multiple EC2 instances, so it helps you basically scale up the things and keep, like you can see in a partition 1 all of these instances are there. Partition 2 has different EC2 instances, so they are different. Okay, they are not connected together, but that gives you security, that ensures again if something happens in any availability zone, another availability zone is there, and obviously there is security which you can look into. Right now, if we just go here in EC2 instances, we were here, so placement groups, we're going to go for here, right? So let's just create some placement groups, right? So we can just give it demo cluster to strategies, cluster T2 group. Then again, if you want to create another placement group which is maybe for demo, spread, no problem. Now again, we don't want to have any restrictions. Okay, create group. Another one which is maybe demo partition. So yeah, partitions, and you can see they're up to 7, so we are happy with maybe 2 partition. Okay, great. Now we have created the placement groups. So when we want to create an EC2 instance, we can just assign these placement groups, and they will just deal with it. Okay, so how we can create these ones? So if you just go here, launch an EC2 instance, you can just choose this one. So I1, let's see. If you go for the advanced options here, instance auto recovery, shutdown behavior, termination protection, credit specification, capacity reservation, kernel tenancy. Okay, well, did I miss this one? Okay, sorry. Spot instances, purchasing option, all instance, right? Yeah, placement groups. You can see the placement groups are there. So you can choose a cluster one, or spread one, or partition one, whatever you want to do it. Obviously you can choose now. And then I believe you have already seen how the structure looks like. If you just come up here, you can see the structure looks like this. This is how it will work, how the EC2 instance will be created, and this is the strategy basically. Okay, so yeah, now let's move to the next slide. Obviously we have already gone through the demo, so that's why it was created. Now let's talk about a different concept, which is basically called elastic network interface. Okay, ENI. So what is ENI? So before talking about this ENI, let me just show you what is ENI. We already have a running EC2 instance. If you go here, and if you go for networking, okay, what can we see? In the interface you can see ENI, right? So whenever we create a EC2 instance, an ENI is created, elastic network interface create. And what happens is, it basically, you can see, it assigns you a public IP, right, and a private IP, right? Now what I want to do right now is, now the thing is, there is an issue. What? Because 52.91 or something, it is basically from elastic IP address. So I just want to basically deassociate the elastic IP address. Okay, sorry, proceed. I want to deassociate the elastic IP address. So I believe it should be then easy for you to process, because you will assume, okay, it was from the elastic IP, so ENI and they are same. No. So let's see. Now you can see there is no elastic IP, and there is a different public IP assigned. It is 54.160 and so. Now how did they get this IP address? Now you can see it was basically from the ENI. Okay, the ENI basically provided the public IP, which is this one, the private IP, and a private IP DNS. So whenever we create an EC2 instance, an ENI is attached to it, which provides this EC2 instance a public IP, a private IP. Okay, great. So yeah, you have learned about it, right? Now let's go back to our concept. Okay, so here you can see, assume this is the US East 1A. Now here an EC2 instance is there, so there is a ENI that is attached to it when we created this one, and assume that after a while we have created another ENI. We can create that. There is a public IP for that as well. Then assume that we have another EC2 instance, which has whenever it was created, the a primary ENI, basically that is it, actually assigns a public IP, so that's no problem. The benefit of ENI is that you can create of your own ENI. It will have a public IP and others, right? Basically then what you can do is, you can assign this ENI to another instance. Okay, rather than now going for this, let's just read this out and let's understand. So what is an ENI? It is basically a logical component of VPC that represents network card. Okay, you can see network card. So it has basically a primary private IP before. So you have seen that a primary private IP before in the AWS console, right? Just to verify here, primary, obviously this is the private IP before. And why are we saying it primary? Because this ENI was assigned, this ENI was created when the EC2 instance was created. So we are calling it primary ENI, okay? And any other ENI that we will create and attach to this EC2 instance is basically secondary and others, okay? So assume that this is the primary. So primary private, primary public. Great. Now let's move here. A primary private and one or more secondary. That means we can attach more ENI here, and there will be more private IP. You can have one elastic IP per private IP. Okay, there is one public IPv4, one or more security groups, a MAC address. So these are the things basically ENI have. It can be created individually and attached to existing EC2. That means when the EC2 instance was created, you have seen the demo. We didn't create an ENI. This ENI was created by default, but we can also create an ENI. Okay. So obviously, now even this, like the ENI we have created, we can do one thing, that we can attach it to any EC2 instance. Okay, we can do that. We can also remove that and add it to another, but keep it in mind that this ENI will be launched in an availability zone, and if we want to remove this ENI and attach it to another EC2 instance, surely the availability zone should be same. That's why you can see there is an availability zone, and within that we have EC2 instances. That means they are also within the same availability zone, and there are some network card basically, so, or you can call it the elastic network interface. This is the primary one which was created with this one. That means by default this is something we created, and this was created when we created the EC2 instance, and then we can attach it to here. Now you may ask why should we go for an elastic network interface? Just understand that these if you just go to the this portion, you understand that this is something we didn't create, so we don't have any control over it, right? So if we create another EC2 instance, there will be another ENI, no problem with that. So what happens when we delete the EC2 instance? Those will be gone, right? So isn't it great if we have our own network card or network interface, and we know the public and private IP4, and then we assign that to an EC2 instance? So we know the public IP, so you know the public IP, and you will share the public IP to your friend. You will say that you don't need to worry about the address, just you will ping in the IP address, and you will just see the website or something like that. So you will have the control over that. So this is why we basically go for the ENI, right? So yeah, now let's we'll learn about the EC2 Hibernate. But before that, isn't it great if you just can check the demo, right? How we can do that? Okay, let's go for that. So here you can see so far we have one EC2 instance, right? Great. Now let's create another EC2 instance. We can just do that, but this time we are not attaching any script to it. Okay, let's just not attach any script. So instance 2, it's nothing we want to change, and let's add the same security group. Now keep it in mind that the security group we have two. One is default, which we are not bothered about. Another one is something we did create during the demo. That is, this security group has the permission to anyone from outside can access to this EC2 instance via SSH and HTTP traffic only. Okay, and this EC2 instance can also contact outside to anyone. Okay, this is what this launch wizard one was. And just to verify, just to show you the inbound and outbound rules for this launch wizard one, you can see HTTP traffic. Anyone from outside need to have HTTP traffic, obviously via HTTP traffic, can contact this EC2 instance. Anyone from outside using SSH can contact this EC2 instance. And outbound rules is obviously from our EC2 instance we can contact anyone. Okay, destination anyone. This means anyone. Great. Now we were here. so we are not making any change, but we are also using the demo key. The key pair we have used for the first one, no problem. I believe it should work properly. Okay, so great. So this EC2 instance again should have a new ENI, elastic network interface, right? Let's see, it's still not running. That means, yeah, it is getting initialized. Okay, if you just go here and into the networking, you can see there is a different ENI. It is for, and the public IP is there, and so on, right? That means that we have now two EC2 instances, and they have two ENIs, right? And the public IP addresses are different, right? Great. Now assume that we want to create obviously the an elastic network interface of our own. We can do that. We can create one, and then what we will do is we will then assign that to one of the EC2 instances, right? Now we have just come here into the EC2 instances, and under the network and security, you can see network interfaces. So we have two EC2 instances, and you can see these are the ENIs that was created when we actually created the EC2 instances. We didn't have to basically create the ENI initially. Great. And you can see the security group and so on. Now let's create a ENI, and description can be like demo ENI. Great. So subnet. So keep it in mind that we need to know where like these EC2 instances are. So you can see this demo 2 is running basically in US East 1D, and this is also in US East 1D. So keep it in mind. If you just go to the theory, you will see that the EC2 instance and the ENI should be in the same availability zone. Okay, so let's move here. US East 1D. So sorry, we also need to choose the US East 1D then. Okay, let's do one interesting thing, that is I will try to create another network interface which will be launched in different availability zone, and we'll try to attach them. Okay, private IP is auto assign, and let's attach a security group, which is the launch wizard one, which we have chosen for our EC2 instances so far. That means the rules, inbound and outbound rules. Okay, great. And you can see this is available, but it is not in use. These two are in use. Okay, now obviously we want to attach this ENI to any of our EC2 instances. So let's press this attach, and obviously we have this ENI. Choose a VPC. Obviously we're using a VPC, and within this VPC, virtual private cloud, we have two EC2 instances launched. Keep it in mind, when we were creating this EC2 instances, this VPC was selected, and in our first video we did actually create this VPC, right? And it has an internet gateway and so on. I did mention about something. Okay, now I assume that now you can see there are two EC2 instances that we can see here, because you can see that this ENI was launched in US East 1D, and these EC2 instances are also something in US East 1D. And obviously we have first of all chosen a VPC. Within the VPC, this VPC is also obviously here, and within the VPC we have these EC2 instances, so we can pick one, and as they are same from the same availability zone, let's just pick maybe demo 2, attach it. Okay, and now it's in use. Now demo 2 right here. So if we just go here and go for the ENI, now you can see this was the one which was created by default, and this is something, it has an index, and it has a private IP. Great. So obviously to get access to this instance, we just need one public IP, that's enough, but it has now two private obviously IP address. Now interestingly, keep it in mind that why do we create private IP? Private IPs are basically created so that we can contact within ourselves, right? Or why we have attached this ENI? That is because this is something of our own. Okay, so whenever we want a any, like assume that you have just launched a proper EC2 instance which is running properly and which has all of the script and so on, it's running, you'll just attach this ENI. Okay, that's it. So if this ENI is not working, if you just it is not of any use or it is deleted, we can delete that. And what will happen is this will have a public IP and the private IP, and this is something of our own. So if we delete this EC2 instance, it won't be deleted. Okay, great. And now what we can do here is we can obviously detach that, and we did attach it with our demo to this EC2 instance. Great, but let's wait for this for a while. Should be available now. We can just attach it to a different instance, which is instance 2. We can do that, no problem. Obviously it again belongs to this one, and if you just go to the networking, you can see it has been attached. Now let's try a different thing. Let's that is second ENI subnet is maybe different. Use this 1A. We can choose the security, obviously security group, no problem. But just understand that this belongs to US East 1D, right? This belongs to US East 1D. This belongs to US 1D. But this is something which we just created, which belongs to US East 1A. We're not bothered about these ENIs. We're bothered about that this ENI should belong to the same availability zone if you want to attach or detach. Okay, so you can see it belongs to 1A, but if you just look into the instances, 1D. So let's try to attach this 1A to 1D. Let's see. So action attach. You can see there is no EC2 instances out there, because obviously BPC is there, but BPC also has some subnets. And when we chose this VPC, virtual private cloud, these EC2 instances, those two EC2 instances were launched in 1D, no problem. But that was by default. We didn't pick one. But there was no EC2 instance that was in 1A. So you can't choose any. So you can't add that. So that's it. So now I believe what we can do here is we can detach this one. Great. And then we can just easily delete these two. Delete, right? Okay, we can just delete that. Let's wait for that. So it should be deleted within a while. Now let's move to our concept and theoretical portion, obviously. So we have just covered the elastic network interface and then this concept of Hibernate. Great. What is Hibernate? EC2 Hibernate. So EC2 Hibernate is basically a concept that before knowing that, you should keep it in mind that whenever we stop a EC2 instance, you can see that you have seen the change of public IP, but have you seen the change of the data? We haven't yet worked with the data, right? So what happens is, in the obviously background, what happens is whenever someone start an instance, in general, whenever we have stopped one, or then we want to start one, the OS boots up, because we choose an OS, so it needs to boot up, right? Then if there is any script, like for example for our EC2 instance demo 2 or something, we have created we did paste a script, right? So that is run, then the OS totally boots up, and then application, if there is an application, it starts, caches, then gets warmed up, and it takes time to do all of this stuff. Great. And again, if we stop an EC2 instance, in general, the data which is in general is there in EBS is kept intact until we go for the starting option again. That means we have stopped that, so data is safe, and again if we start it, that data will be there. But if we terminate it, the data is gone. What if we don't want any of these? What if we want to go for another option which is called EC2 Hibernate? So here in EC2 Hibernate, what happens is that from this image, if you just look into the image, what you can see here is that this is an EC2 instance. It has some RAM there, okay, and it is running. And assume we have an EBS volume here, obviously. If we go for hibernation, what happens is that RAM is then thrown to the EBS volume. That means that whatever we have, the RAM state is then saved in EBS volume. Then again, you can see if we and the EC2 instance then stops. From this stopping state, if we want to then start from the hibernation state, then the vice versa happens. Then this RAM state then stores up to the EC2 instance, and then the RAM is running up and running. Great. So yeah, this is how this hibernation works as a whole. Okay, so yeah, how this works in general, it works for C3, C4, C5 by 3M, 3M4 instances, and the RAM should have less than 150 GB, okay, to save the state. And here EBS must be encrypted. If you have actually gone through all of the videos of mine, I've shown you like from the advanced option that there was some option called encryption and no encryption. So we didn't pick that one. But this time, if we want to ever use this hibernation option, we need to encrypt. Why? You can understand that we are saving our RAM state in EBS volume, right? That means that it is there out there, so it should be encrypted so that anyone can't use it, right? That's why. And this feature is basically available for we have also talked about the EC2 pricing. So on demand, reserved and spot instances. So if that belongs to any of these categories, it will work. Okay. So yeah, that should be something we can look into, and let's go and check out how these demo will look like. Let's just go here. So if you go to the dashboard and you can't attach EC2 instances, the existing or running ones. So if you have any plan to hibernate an EC2 instance, you have to, when you are creating an EC2 instance, you have to take that option. Like for example, if I just press this launch instance and like maybe instance 3, and we'll keep this key, obviously. We can choose the existing security group, which is this launch wizard one. But in the advanced options, in this one here, you can see the stop hibernate behavior. So you have to choose it as enable. Okay. Also keep it in mind that we have to, like, you can see the storage thing is mentioned, like make sure that the root volume is large enough to store the RAM content. That means you have to keep it in mind that root volume is larger than that. Like just like assume that EBS volume is working as the root volume, which has 10 GB, and the RAM state has 20 GB. It won't work, right? A lot of data that won't be saved. Okay, great. Now that's good. We are not bothered about this. Let's bother about this configure storage, and here you can see this is our storage as a whole. So if you just press this one, you can see encrypted. It should be encrypted, and there is a default key which we can use, and obviously the size is now 8 GB, but just like that, assume that if the RAM state is 150, at least it should be 350 GB, and you can just create this one. That's it. And then you can choose the hibernation option for this instance once it's basically created, right? And you can see it's on demand. Basically we haven't chose basically any like spot instance or anything. There were the options basically. Shutdown, maybe stop hibernate. Yeah, we've chosen inlay, this one, IBS optimized. We don't need them. Capacity, others, the loss of options, right? Okay, so we can basically choose this one from the advanced option for sure, for the spot instance or any other behavior. So as we just for this demo, it's the on-demand one. Like we have just picked this one, this OAS storage and others, and we'll just get the we'll launch it, and it will be charged in the on demand basis. It won't be just like the other stuffs, right? But yeah, that's why it will work. But I don't want to launch it and cost some money of mine. Okay, great. So now what I can do is I can just terminate these ones, but just keep it in mind that if we would have created that EC2 instance just a moment back, it would have the option called Hibernate instance. Okay, as we haven't created that, these two instances was something that was the basic ones. We cannot hibernate them. Okay, we can just either stop them, reboot them, or terminate them. Stop them will like the data will be saved in EBS volume, and then you can understand that then it will again, once we start, then it will be again there. And reboot is basically rebooting, not like something happens like this stopping. Terminate is basically to delete this one. So we will now delete these options, because that is basically the end of concepts for us for EC2 instances for now. But I believe I will add more videos on EC2 instances later on. So yeah, let's just terminate the delay instances, and let's remove the security group as well, the launch wizard one, delete the security group. And it will take some time, because the instances are already getting deleted. Once they are deleted, we can do that. But let's go for the network interfaces, and this is an available one, which I believe we missed to delete. Okay, so as it's so let's see, we will basically, and you can see these are in use, right? Why? Because these two were created when the EC2 instances were created, so we're expecting this to be gone. Yeah, you see the third one is something which we created. We deleted this one, and those two are already gone because these instances are basically terminated. That's why those ENI were deleted as well. Any other things we have created? We haven't yet worked with the EBS, elastic block storage. So basically, yeah, we've been talking with talking about EBS, but we haven't worked with it. We'll do that later on. But security group, let's now delete this one. Still delete, and keep here. We'll just keep this one, no problem with that. About placement groups, we have 3 placement groups. Let's just try to delete these ones. Okay, network interfaces are gone, placement groups are gone, elastic IP, I believe this is something we can delete. And keep it in mind that will be charged, right? If you just assign this, so will be charged for that. And obviously it is not associated except transfer. Yeah, we can delete this one later on. We have just created this one, and if we use this one with an EC2 instance, will be charged. So yeah, it is not currently used, right? And as we have no EC2 instances, so we can just do this one, or we can just press this transfer and so on. Okay, we'll do that later on. Let's just focus on the EC2 instance types. No, I believe I haven't shown these instance types to you guys, and although when we are launching that, we can choose those, but yeah, there are lots of instance types here. At least you can check them out. Okay, spot request, volumes, AMI, elastic IP, security groups. Is it gone already? Should be, yes, done. So yeah, that should be it. As we can have 5 elastic IP, I'm not deleting that right now. There's no problem with that for me. So okay, so if you have seen so far, that's really great. You have learned a lot of things. I am EC2 instances, and you are good to go to learn more concepts in my later videos. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next video.